Hello and welcome to our live stream Q&A with egg farmer Jess Spencer. Hi Jess.
Hi everyone.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's very, very exciting to have you on.
I'm excited to be here.
Now, this is an amazing session. We've already got so many schools signed up. We've got prep at Tate Street here. We've got Serpell Primary. Hi, guys. We've got Queenwood. We've got Applecross Primary. They're at recess, but they're coming in very, very shortly, apparently. So that's really good.
Fantastic. Thank you all for joining us.
Excellent. Now, Jess, the way this session is going to work, we've got a few questions coming in for you, but we've also got a bit of a presentation to show all of our students and schools joining us how you operate on Days Eggs Farm.
Yes.
That's what we're all here for. It's very exciting. But I've also got a bit of a game for you, a bit of a challenge if you're up for it. So I hope you got your thinking brain on.
Hopefully. We'll see.
All right, well, let's dive in. Do you want to give us a bit of an overview of who you are and what you do?
Yes, so I am Jessica Spencer. I am the Poultry Welfare Manager for Days Eggs here in South Australia. I'm a qualified animal scientist and I've been working in my role here for about 6 years now. So pretty much anything to do with chickens is what I do, from day old, as you can see on the screen, through to the adult laying hens and eggs from the sheds all the way through till they go to our grading floor and then out to the supermarket. So yeah, anything to do with chickens and eggs, really.
So what does a day on the farm look like for you?
So a day on the farm would generally be the staff arrive and the first thing they do is go and check on the chickens, obviously. So we go through and we do a series of walks through the sheds and we make sure that everything is there for them. So we're going to check our feed, we're going to check our water, we're going to make sure the ventilation in the shed is right, that the temperature is right, and that the chickens look happy and healthy through the shed. So we're looking at them, how they look, what their feathers look like, and then we do our egg collect and we check the eggs as well. The eggs can tell you a lot about the chickens, so we always look at the eggs and make sure the eggs are all good at the farm as well. So
it sounds like a lot of jobs to keep you busy up there.
There definitely is.
How big is your farm? What kind of area do you have to cover?
So Days Eggs, we have 8 sites split up around South Australia. 6 of those sites are actually laying sites and 2 of them are the rearing sites. So we have just under 500,000 laying hens split up over those 6 laying sites. We have around 120 to 130,000 chicks in rearing as replacements for those flocks. So our farms are very widely spread. We go from all the way down south near McLaren Vale in South Australia to all the way up north, about 2.5 hours or 2 hours north of our head office in Lower Light. We go all the way up to near Port Germain and Port Pirie. So lots of travel, lots and lots of travel.
Lots of travel and 500,000 hens. Now that's a lot of hugs to give out.
Yes, definitely.
So to all our schools joining us today, I'd love to know where you guys are. So pop your location in the chat box so we can see where you're joining us from. And if you've got any questions for Jess during this session, don't forget to pop those in as well, because I'll be checking that chat box as we go along. So you've said about 500,000 layer hens. Now, what is a layer hen and what does that actually mean for farmers?
So a laying hen is a hen that is essentially that. She's in lay. So generally speaking, most farms, us included, we will get our birds at what we call a point of lay pullet. So around 15 weeks of age, we train them up and then they'll start laying their eggs at about 18 weeks of age, and that then becomes your laying hen. From 18 weeks until around 75 to 80 weeks, that's their laying life here in a commercial farm. And that's what we would call a laying hen. So anything before that is either a chick or a pullet, what we call a pullet.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like egg farming has its own vocabulary that egg
Absolutely.
Yes. Wowee. How long did it take you to learn all of those special words?
A fair while. And there's new words coming out every day. So
I've got a bit of a video on the next slide here, and it shows us a little bit about around your farm, and you've got a man called Dion there who works with you on the farm as well, I think.
Yeah, so Dion is the managing director of Days Eggs. He is my boss, but we're based here at our home farm. So the farm in the video here is actually where our head office and grading facility is. And this farm is a free range farm and it holds 47,000 birds over 3 sheds. 2 of those sheds are very new. They've been built within the last 5 years, I should say, and they're fully automated, very high tech. The newer models that are sort of out when you look at some of the egg sheds that are around the place. So modern technology in egg farming, really.
Oh, that's so exciting. What kinds of technology do you get to use?
Computers, lots and lots of computers. So these particular sheds, we call them Big Dutchman sheds. That's where we get them from. Different makers make different types, but for these ones, there's a big computer system, and what it helps us do is it helps us really monitor the chickens. So these sheds will tell us exactly how many grams of feed each chicken eats every single day, how many mils of water they drink every single day, and it'll tell us what the temperature is at any point throughout the day. It can graph things for us. Yeah, they're really good systems, and it helps us keep a very, very close eye and monitor the welfare of our hens very closely. So.
Now that's a really interesting word, welfare. And I know that's something that lots of Australian farmers, not just egg farmers, really have to think about on a day-to-day during their job on a day-to-day basis. So what is welfare? Can you give us a bit of an overview of that and what that means?
Welfare really for our hens incorporates everything that keeps them in a state where they're healthy, they're producing eggs, and they're well looked after. So welfare incorporates everything from providing them with feed, providing them with the temperature and the environment that they need. They like to stay between certain temperatures, so we have to be able to provide that for them. It's making sure they always have access to clean, fresh water, that we protect them from predators, that we protect them from environmental changes. So welfare encompasses all of that. It's about preventing diseases and things like that by making sure we have a good biosecurity program, that our staff are well trained in how to handle them. So it incorporates all of it. And in the end, if you can have all of that, you provide good welfare for your hens.
And is that important to be able to produce good quality eggs as well?
It's the absolute #1 priority for what we do. So everything that we do on our farm is to promote good welfare for our hens so that we do get eggs, and that's it. Everything we do every day is to make sure our chickens are okay.
Now that is a big job when you have 500,000 hens to look after, I'm sure. Okay, so you talked about the different staff and being properly trained. So how many people actually work on your farm and what are their jobs?
So all of our farms are different. It depends on the size of the farm as to how many people are there. But generally speaking, there will be sort of between 3 and 10 people on each site, and they all have different roles. So we do have people that specifically only do the egg collection. They're very well trained in how to collect the eggs, how to sort the eggs, how to clean the machinery that is used to collect those eggs, which you'll probably see in this video a bit after. And then there are people that are just trained in how to look after the birds, how to monitor them and make sure they're okay, that check the feed and the water, and that report back anything they will notice differences in the birds if there are any, and they're trained to do that, to pick up on those things. So
wow, really interesting. It sounds like there's quite a range of different jobs that people can go into.
Yes, there absolutely is.
Excellent. Now we've got a question that's come in from a school, or I'm not sure where you are. This is Ms. Cullen's class. They said, we have new chickens at school right now. How old are they before you can tell their sex, and how do you know?
Okay. So that's an interesting question. Hopefully, if you're planning to get eggs, that you don't have any boys, because otherwise you'll get baby chickens. So with us, we have female hens, obviously, because we need eggs, or that's our business. But generally speaking, males will get longer tail feathers. They'll also get little spurs on the backs of their legs, which is something that the boys will just have. And they won't produce eggs for you. They'll get very, very big combs and wattles on their face. So that's something that you can look at as well. And normally, if it's 6 o'clock in the morning, they'll wake you up. So the females don't do any sort of vocalization like the boys do early in the morning. They will when they lay their eggs, but not generally at 6 a.m. to wake you up in the morning. The females also, there's some very definitive signs that we can do on the farm to pick them up to make sure or check that they're laying eggs and things like that, and they don't get spurs. So that's things you need to look out for. In a commercial setting, our boys are different from our girls coloured wise, so we can see them quite easily. Our girl laying hens are brown and boys are white.
There you go. Some simple ways to tell them apart there. Now, teachers joining us, you might notice that on the screen is a classroom challenge. Now, we're going to send this presentation to you after the session today, so feel free to take a photo of these, a screenshot, or just wait until we send them to you after the session. But there's some fun things that you can do there to extend your learning about egg farming in Australia there. So, now, in the video that we just saw then, Jess, we saw lots of different areas where the hens were living.
Yes.
And I know that these areas kind of correspond to how you guys produce eggs.
Yes.
Now, do you want to take us through a few of those areas and what they look like?
So we run 3 different production systems for Days Eggs. We have our cage facility, which we call a pre-enriched cage because of the type of cage housing that they're in. So the image that's on the screen at the moment is an image of our pre-enriched cage housing. So in these, the cages are quite big. They're over 2 meters long. So the birds are free to move around. There's perching in there, and there's some little scratch areas in there so that birds can actually display natural behaviour and scratch down their toenails and their beaks. So that's the pre-enriched cage. In a cage setting, the birds are as that. They're in a cage. We also run what we call non-caged or barn production. And in that type of production system, you may have a shed similar to the one in this photo here, except there would be no pop holes in the shed. So the birds are free to move around within the shed itself, up and down on the different levels. They just simply cannot go outside. And then we have our free range, which would be this particular photo, yes. So those birds would be in the same shed that you just saw in the previous photo, but we have the pop holes and the birds have free access to go outside every single day. So they're the differences between the systems, and we do run all 3 systems.
Amazing. Now, why would an egg farmer or an egg production company choose one system over another? What could be some of the reasons?
Well, it could just be based on the size of the company, for one, where they sell their eggs to and what the demand is at the time. So it'll be, to some extent, it'll be based on what the demand is as to whether they're needed to produce the different methods. It could just be what they want to produce. Some farmers specifically do choose to only produce free range or only produce cage. It just depends on where they want to produce eggs and what the market is for them in their area. So there's obviously other forms of production system on top of free range, things like organic, but then there's other certification that you need for that. And some people do choose to go down that path, and they'll go to more an organic or a caravan style production system. We're commercial, and we run commercial for the 3 production systems because of our size and what our market demands for us.
Very interesting. It's interesting to see how different farmers do it depending on how their business is set up, and of course where they are in Australia as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, do keep putting in your questions for Jess in the chat box or in the Q&A box. I've got both open here and I can see your questions coming through. So do keep going on those. Now, Jess, I've got a bit of a funny question for you.
Yes.
I can see all the hens outside here on the free range. Do hens play?
Do they play? You do see birds interacting out on the range, definitely. So you'll see them with each other. They'll be scratching around. They might jump up on one another, things like that. Playing in a sense, I don't know. I know that outside they go out there to really fulfill what their instinctive behaviour is. And that's fulfilling for them. So going outside, scratching around, digging through the hay or the plants that are in there, that's something that it's been proven that they enjoy to do, and they tend to stick together. So I'd say that they do enjoy, in a sense, playing, but as it wouldn't be the same as how, we would go outside and play. So
definitely, although it does look like a very large playground for all of those hens there.
Absolutely.
So here's your next classroom challenge, a bit of a design challenge here. Have a think about how you were going to cook an egg if you were stranded in the bush. Now, how do you like your eggs, Jess?
I like poached eggs.
Oh, me too, with some toast.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Now, that brings us on really nicely to why eggs. Why should we include eggs in our diets?
Nutritionally speaking, eggs are really, really good for you. They provide you with a lot of the nutrients that you would need in your everyday diet. One thing, there's a common misconception about eating eggs and how often you can eat them. You can absolutely eat an egg every single day, and it's not going to do anything. They're very, very high in some particular things, and yeah, they're great for you. So eat an egg every day. It's great.
Fantastic. And round that egg on there, we've got all of the delicious and useful things inside an egg that can be used in your body. And we got some great questions coming in here. We got one from Vanessa Mann. Hi, Vanessa. That she says, we have been given some rabbit and guinea pig pellets. Can these be given to our chickens at school?
The chickens would eat them. I'm not going to say that they won't, but nutritionally speaking, those pellets probably don't contain everything that the birds need for them to grow properly and produce eggs properly. So it's always better to go and get a properly balanced poultry diet. If you are going to have chickens as pets at home or at school, it's always better to feed them exactly what they need, because they do need things in different levels to other animals. And some other animals have different types of stomachs to what a chicken has, and that will determine what they can and can't eat, or what they can use in the food that they eat. So
fantastic. Can they have any fresh food? Have you got any advice of what I think these guys are Applecross Primary? What could Applecross give their chickens?
So for backyard hens, yeah, you can give them scraps. A lot of people do. We don't here, but that's just because we're a commercial industry and it'd be a lot of vegetable scraps. But what I would say is ultimately you can give them fresh leafy greens. Stay away from things like citrus, and anything from the onion or garlic family is not good for them. And the same with avocados. Definitely don't go. I know people like avocados, but they're not generally good for animals. So try not to feed anything to do with avocados, garlic, onions, or citrus to them. It's not very good for them, but everything else should be okay.
There we go. And make sure to check if you're not sure, guys. We don't want any chickens getting sick. Couple of questions from Mr. Scott's class. Good one here. What happens to the older chickens after they stop laying? Good question.
It is a good question, and it's a question I do get asked a lot. So at the end of a production life, our chickens do unfortunately leave the farm, and what tends to happen to them is they go off for processing. So they do still taste like chicken. They just don't put on weight like what we call a broiler or a meat chicken would. So they tend to become things that go into stock food. So your carcasses for making soups and things like that. They also go off to pet food and off to composting. So they do make good fertilizer as well. So our chickens are never wasted at the end of their life. They do go off and become things. So
fantastic. And the next question those guys have got is, how do you get all the hens back in the shed at the end of the day?
There is a lot of training involved in getting chickens back into a shed. We probably spend the first 8 weeks after chickens come in to lay training them to do various different things. We use a lot of light to train the birds to come back in at night. Chickens will follow light, and they tend to follow light in an upwards direction. So our shed lighting is designed to encourage birds in after the sun has gone down outside, and that helps bring all the chickens back in at night, and it's very, very effective. So
wow, I had no idea that chickens could be trained. How funny.
They can.
We got a question from Mitcham Girls. Hi there, guys. They say, what breeds do you use for egg laying?
So we use what we call a highline brown commercial hen. That's what Days Eggs uses. We have tried other breeds before. We've used what we call a Lohman brown bird as well. The differences with them come down to the amount of eggs that they're able to produce, how the shell quality of those eggs, the behaviour and temperament of the chickens as well. But we, at the moment, 100% run a highline brown bird.
Fantastic, thank you. Hope that answered your question, guys. Gaimia Bay is here finally. We had some technical difficulties. No worries, lovely to see you guys here. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Serpel Primary School have asked, why do some eggs hatch and others don't?
So The reason behind that is any eggs that hatch have been fertilized. So that means there's been a male in the group and he has mated with the females, and you're going to get baby chicks out of them. Whereas when there's no male around, the eggs are laid, they're not fertilized, so they won't hatch. There's nothing in there. So they're the eggs that we have, obviously. So no boys, which means no babies, and no hatching eggs.
A very succinct answer there. So we got a personal question here, and I'm not sure who this has come from, so do pop your name in there. Why did you want to be an egg farmer?
I grew up, I never had cats or dogs growing up. I was the child that had birds. I always had birds growing up, budgies, canaries. I had a pet duck a long time ago. So I really loved poultry growing up. And when I went to university, I worked a lot with poultry vets and in the sort of poultry side of what I was doing in animal science. And I really enjoyed it. So I had the opportunity to go out to layer farms in my final year of uni and spent a bit of time there and did some sampling and things like that. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So when I left, I knew that that's where I wanted to go, and I've been here ever since. So
What a story. Wow. I can't imagine having a duck as a pet, though. They must be quite noisy.
they're very smart, actually. You can train them too.
How funny. Now, is it 4LD or 4ID? I'm not sure how to say that, guys. At Queenwood, hello. They've asked, how many eggs do the 3 types of operations produce per day?
Oh, that's a good question. So, out of our just under 500,000 hens, we're probably running at about 120,000 cage hens, and then 350,000 free range in different types of free range systems. And then we've got about 20,000 barn. So every day we could be bringing in, around 450,000, maybe just under 450,000 eggs a day. It just depends on the age of the bird and where they are at in their laying cycle. So it's going to be different every single day. And then sometimes we don't have flocks in, so that number goes down. But
now that is a lot of eggs.
It is a lot of eggs, and they get collected every single day. So
now, if I can go back to the supply chain, which we saw a little video of here, to go and see this video and hear it, go and check out the Australian Eggs website. By the way, it's called Journey of an Egg. It's a fantastic video. With all of those 450,000 eggs, where did they go? So who do you actually supply from your farms?
So all of our eggs come down to our centralised grading floor, and we grade those eggs, what we call grade them, every single day. Now for us here, not everybody does it, but Days Eggs wash every single egg that comes through. So they get washed and they get sanitized and they go into a carton, and those cartons go out to supermarkets. So here in South Australia, Days Eggs supplies most of the major supermarkets. So you're talking about places like Woolworths, Aldi, Foodland, all of them. We also supply McDonald's here in South Australia, as well as a lot of small supermarkets and grocers and butchers. We also do catering, so we supply to some hotels and things like that as well. So I guess we're pretty spread out all over South Australia, you could say.
Well, if we've got anyone in South Australia, do look out for Days Eggs at your local shop. I'm sure you'll find them there. Now, this brings us to game time, Jess. Are you up for a bit of a game?
Yes, I will give it a crack.
Okay. Oh, was that a bit of an egg pun there? I saw that. I see you. All right. This game is called Golden Egg or Rotten Egg, and is a bit of a play on a true or false theme. So here we go. The colour of an egg yolk is dependent on the hen's diet. Now, you guys watching from school or at home can join us in this as well. Pop your answer into the chat box. Is this true or a golden egg, or is this false or a rotten egg? What do you say, Jess?
True.
Let's have a look. Of course it's true. It's a golden egg. Now, I didn't know that what a hen eats is actually reflected in what they lay.
Yes, absolutely it is. The yolk colour is highly dependent on what the chickens actually eat. So I guess chickens that eat a lot of green materials will have nice, really rich coloured yolks, because you get the beta carotene out of the grass. So that's where it comes from.
Very interesting. Now, Applecross, Queenwood, and Mr. Scott's class all got that right. So well done, guys.
Well done,
All right, here we go again. Eggs past their best do not float. Is that a golden egg or is that a rotten egg? And there's something for you guys to try if you're looking for a little bit of an investigation after this session as well. What do you reckon, Jess? Do eggs past their best float?
No, they definitely float. So that's false. Yeah.
It's a rotten egg. That's right. Have you ever come across a really terrible rotten egg?
Not at work, but I can say that a long time ago when I had my own chickens, I did get a rotten egg once. Yes.
Ooh, stinky. We don't like that. Now, before we do this question, we got a question that's coming from Zoe. Hi, Zoe. Zoe asks, how long does the average chicken live for?
So the average chicken in a commercial setting normally lives up to about 75 to 80 weeks. So you're looking at about 15 months for the life of it. And they'll be on that laying farm anywhere from 15 weeks of age through to that point. So you're looking at about 60 weeks, 65 weeks on a laying farm.
Okay. And what about if they're just a pet?
Oh, a pet chicken can live for years. It can definitely live for years. It may not necessarily lay you lots of eggs for that whole time, but they can live for years.
Fantastic. Thanks, Zoe. That was a great question. Oh, another question. This is a really good one. How do double yolkers form?
So a double yoker essentially is when the chicken doesn't quite understand how to put a single yolk through. So what will happen is when they're younger and they're learning how to lay an egg, sometimes they get a bit confused, and instead of dropping one yolk, they will drop two together, and then the shell and the white will form around that. And normally we would see those when the hens are younger, and it'll peter off as they get older. But every now and then you get one chicken that never quite gets it right, and we get it through the whole life. Yeah.
Now, I was once lucky enough to have a whole 6-pack of eggs be all double yolkers.
Yes, they're normally quite substantially bigger than the other eggs, so you can pick them out of a pallet of eggs generally.
Wow, that is fascinating. Ben has said, what's the brand of your eggs sold?
So here in South Australia, we have our own brand that we pack into, which is Country Fresh eggs. So Days Eggs Country Fresh, you see them, but our eggs also go into private labels. So they go into the cartons of all the major supermarkets as well. And it should say it on the back of the carton who it's actually packed by. So we have our own brand though. So you'll be able to see our own brand, Days Eggs Country Fresh eggs on the shelf.
There you go, Ben. Look out for it. All right, let's do this rotten egg, golden egg question. Hens can start laying eggs at about 4 months old. Is that true or is that false, Jess?
It's around about true. Normally it's about 18 weeks of age. So 16 weeks is a bit young, but 18 weeks of age is normally when you start getting eggs out of them.
Well, I'm going to class that as a golden egg. It's around about a golden egg, maybe a silver egg. You know. Right. Lovely. Oh, Queenwood said that's a golden egg. Great job, guys. All right, hens cannot lay eggs without a rooster. Now, I think Applecross Primary should be able to answer this for us. What do you think, guys? Or is that Serpell Primary? What do you think? Let's see if they were listening. We've got some lovely questions coming in, guys. Keep those coming. Queen would say that's a rotten egg. Applecross say that's a rotten egg. Let's find out.
That one.
Of course. Baby chicks do not get laid without a boy chicken or a rooster. All right, this is our last one, I think. All farmers use robots to collect, sort, and grade their eggs. What kind of robots do you use on your farm, Jess?
I wish I had a robot, to be honest. We definitely have automated machinery that helps, but we definitely still have sheds that we got to physically pick them up by hand as well. So makes it easier. They roll onto egg belts, but we do have some sheds that are still hand packing. So I would say that that's a big false on that one.
Of course it's false. Now, what would you say if we designed you a brand new robot to use on your farm that could help with your day-to-day jobs?
That would be fantastic. I'm sure all my staff would love that.
There you go. If you want to design Jess a brand new robot for collecting, grading and sorting the egg, design it and send in your design to hello@kimberlineducation.com.au. We will pass it on to Jess, and I know she'd love to see it. All right, so here's our final classroom challenge. And while you're getting your head around that, we'll skip back to a couple of other questions that come in. Harry's asked, what makes the shell on the egg?
What makes the shell? So the shell is made up mainly of calcium. So that's, I guess, what you see on the screen at the moment is absolutely correct. So inside the chicken, in what we call their oviduct, where the eggs are produced, there's a particular section where only the shell is formed, and that egg will sit there for a certain number of hours, and the shell will form around it before it's laid. So it's the last part to go on before that egg is laid.
Wow, that is just fascinating, isn't it? That's so clever. Queen would have asked, what's the biggest egg you've ever found?
Oh, there's been some doozies. There has been some absolute doozies. The largest ones that we've ever graded out have been around 92 grams.
That's a big egg.
Yep, and that's gone through to the grading floor. So, and they've been graded out. They don't fit in any cartons though.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, they'd fit in a pan. That's a one omelette egg right there, isn't it?
They definitely don't happen very often, that's for sure.
That's a pretty good one. I like that, Queenwood. Well done. That's a great question. All right, a couple of other questions here. How do you become an egg farmer?
Well, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can do it the way that I did it, but otherwise we like to take on anybody that wants to come and have a look. So we take people through to do work experience. If you're really interested, all you have to do is get in touch with an egg farmer near you. And if you really want to give it a go, you can ask to organise to do some work experience during your school holidays, or if you are at university or thinking about going and there's working experience involved, definitely get involved, because it was something that really, really got me keen on the industry and interested, was doing that throughout uni. I always had a passion, and if you do, it's always good to get out there and try things. So
oh, absolutely. Well, there you go. If we've got any budding egg farmers in the audience today, go and check out your local egg farm. Mr. Scott's class have asked, how much does an adult chicken weigh?
around 2 kilos for a laying hen. So keep in mind that's for a laying hen only. It's around 2 kilos for an adult bird. So
fantastic. Ayan has asked, is your farm just for egg production? I hope I'm saying your name right, Ayan.
yes. So we don't have any other types of farming on our properties. It's only egg production.
Fantastic. Do chickens have teeth?
They have almost like a grill that sits at the top of their beak. It's not teeth. It's hard to explain. Yeah, it's a bit hard to explain actually. A bit like how you would feel. I don't know if you've ever felt like fish skin or anything. It's a bit rough. It's not teeth though, but it's a rough surface. So
okay, so they don't bite, they might grind things.
yeah. So the chickens don't tend to bite at all. They peck at things, and the plate that they kind of have that is rough helps to push things back into the mouth and down into the stomach where it all gets ground down. So no teeth. You don't be afraid of getting bitten by a chicken, because it won't happen.
Zoe's asked, how many staff do you have?
Overall, across all of the sites that I oversee, we probably have around 45 staff members, and that's the people that are there all the time, generally speaking, plus a few people that are casual employees in there as well. Overall, though, the company has just under 100 people from all the farms and the grading facilities. So
fantastic. Do chickens live longer when free range compared to your caged ones? Good question.
That is a very good question, and it highly depends. Not necessarily. So I have to stress that it's not so much that they live longer in one, it's to do with what they're exposed to in the different systems. So in a free range setting, you've got to remember that birds do go outside, so they are exposed to a lot more things. So unfortunately, you can have incidences where birds do get taken by things, which increases what we call our mortality rate. In a cage setting, birds aren't exposed to those sorts of things, so it can actually help reduce the overall mortality of a flock and reduce the number of deaths throughout the life. It doesn't mean that one system's necessarily better than the other. It just means that they're different and different things happen in them. So
There you go. Thank you. Jackson's asked, do hens live longer than roosters?
No, I wouldn't say that they do. We don't really run roosters here, so I'm not, I guess, super knowledgeable on the life of a rooster. But in a commercial setting, we don't run them. At home, I believe they'd live just as long as each other, really. But in a commercial setting, we don't have them, so I can't really tell you that. Sorry.
No worries. That's a good question, Jackson, though. Maybe it's up to you to go and find that out. Now, I am conscious of time. We've only got time for maybe one more question, Jess, and then I'm going to invite any high school students, so year 7, 8, 9, 10. If you want to join us for a live Q&A with Jess for the last 10 minutes, we can absolutely do that, so stay online. For everybody else, here's our last question, and this comes from a year 1 student at St. George College. It's a great question. How do the roosters warm up the eggs?
So they sit on them. So that's all it is. So what will happen is if you leave the eggs there, the chickens will get nice and cozy and they'll fluff up all their feathers and they'll pull the egg underneath them and they'll sit right on top of them and keep them warm.
Oh, very good, very good. Kind of an inbuilt radiator system.
Absolutely is, yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Now, I know there were some questions that we didn't get around to. Don't worry, we're going to ask Jess very nicely if she wouldn't mind answering those after the session, and we're going to send them all to your teachers so they can share them with you after the session with our presentation today. Now, guys, if you are in year 7, 8, 9 or 10, if you could please identify yourself in the chat box so we can add you to the live Q&A. Otherwise, I'm going to switch my camera off for a little bit and we're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate all your wonderful questions. Jess, is there anything you'd like to say to our students before they leave?
Thank you so much for talking to me today, guys. I really enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please feel free to flick them through and I'll answer them. And if you are interested in the egg industry, get involved because it is absolutely wonderful.
Thanks so much, Jess. We will chat to you very, very soon. Check out Kimberlin Education's website, KE Teacher, for more live Q&A events and stay in touch with us. And send us all of your designs and creations at hello@kimberlineducation.com.au. And while you're there, go and check out the Australian Eggs website. There is a whole number of education resources, lesson plans, videos and games for you to check out and play in your classroom or at home. So good luck with those and we will see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.